Who are we missing?
We're missing Gene Hurley, Rod Letchworth, Bob Negale, Kim Barley, Jack Matheson, and he said he might have trouble coming on.
Well, Nagel resigned.
Yeah, but we thought he might get on. Bob Levine hasn't checked in.
I think I got an email from him that was a little ambiguous this morning.
Kim Barley said he's with his bishop for lunch, and he will be with us starting at 1:30. So.
Okay.
Okay. Let me see what Levine, I'm trying to see. Oh, he says there was a meeting here this morning, and I want to share my thoughts with you. So I think what Levine is, I guess that means he's got a meeting at his CCRC. I don't know.
Well, he said he was having lunch with his bishop, and that.
You're talking about a different person. I'm talking about Bob Levine.
Oh, Bob Levine. Sorry. Okay.
You're talking about Rod Letchworth. What priority does Rod give to NaCCRA?
No, I was talking about Kim Barley, actually.
Oh, Kim Barley. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's
Gene Hurley's here.
Hello,
good.
Gene. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. So Gene Hurley now is in by phone. So Walt, do you think that's all we're going to get then for now?
Yeah, I think if Rod's going to be late, I don't know that Bob is going to be there. I kind of suspect Jack Matheson will not be here. I know Kim was going to be delayed, and you say Bob Levine is going to be delayed. So looks like everybody's here that's going to be here.
Okay, Bob Nicholson, it's your show.
All right, here we go. The problem, I shouldn't say the problem, but one of the challenges is to look at the agenda on my screen and look at you at the same time. So I printed out the agenda, so I'm going to have to look at two sheets of paper at once. So I want to welcome the people to the meeting and salute Jack for bringing off the video part of this, and say to those that are on the phone that if I can do it, anybody can do it. So keep trying. I was tutored through this, and believe it or not, it worked, and it's an amazing feature, and I'm very grateful for it. Anyway, so welcome to the NaCCRA meeting. We're now going to proceed with the hope that our deliberations are open, productive, and in keeping with the NaCCRA bylaws that are still in force, as those proposed revisions we sent out were rejected by the members. To begin with, to see who's here, who's are present, the ones that are appointed and approved by the board, the ones that have been approved by the board. I'm going to ask Walt Boyer to call the roll and take it from there. So, Walt, would you help us there? Walt is the nominating chair, brings names forward to the general membership for election after being appointed by the president and approved by the board.
Okay. Walt Boyer is here. Jack Cumming is here. Gene Hurley.
Here.
Okay. Rod Letchworth. Bob Negale, and Bob Nicholson is here. I mean, current members of the board of directors are present.
Now, Negale is no longer a director.
Yeah, he's not on the board now.
I understood he was going to be off as of this meeting. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I had him.
Well, Bob told me that he resigned prior to Indianapolis.
Okay.
Is that correct? Is that correct, Bob?
As far as I know.
Okay. The candidates are Kim Barley, Jack Matheson, Basil Flume. Are you here?
I am.
Okay. Ruth Walsh.
I'm here.
And the new candidates are Bob Levine and Jim McLean.
I'm here, Paul.
Okay. So three of the new candidates are here. You have 4 board members present. Bob,
What does that say about a quorum?
You haven't
No.
got one.
we don't really have one yet.
Well, Bob Levine I see Bob Levine there. So Bob.
Here I am.
Okay, Bob, can you
Yeah,
turn your phone sideways? There, that's better.
okay.
Because we're all in landscape mode, so you put it into landscape mode. That looks great. And there is Ann Mackay just came in.
Is Ann Mackay the same as Sue Mackay from Maryland?
Ann? Oh, Ann
Hello?
doesn't have her sound go. Hi, Ann, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Oh,
Are
great.
you? Yeah, that is Sue Mackay from Maryland.
No, Ann Mackay. Ann McKay. Bob?
All right, I just want to, I've got a mental problem.
Can everybody hear me?
Who's me?
Oh, okay. You got me?
Okay, Bob?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah. We
Okay.
lost your picture, but we can hear you.
Yeah. What do I do with
Is this Bob
Hmm.
Levine?
find the picture?
Yeah,
I
to
don't know.
start the picture, I think you need the little Zoom app if you're on it says you're on an iPhone. There you go.
There you go.
Got your picture. Your picture's there.
Beautiful.
I think then we're ready to go to the first issue, or the first thing on the proposed agenda, that is the quorum discussion, of which is document A. It calls to mind the problem that we had with the October 29 meeting, where we did not have a quorum, and the 2 matters of substance that were taken then was Ruth, Jack, Basil, and Kim, named, appointed by me and confirmed by the board that was not in a quorum, to fill vacancies, and then the active aging advocates and active aging fellowship recognized as brand names for a NaCCRA activity. So, Jack, will you take it from there?
Well, we didn't have a quorum then. We don't have a quorum now. So
Well, you know,
this creates a challenge. It, I won't go through all the circumstances how it came to be, but we need to have we need to have a board that's accepted as legitimate by the membership, and you can accomplish. We want to be in accordance with the bylaws, and Jim McLean wrote an analysis the other day, and he did an interesting thing. He listed directors and included their terms, which is something that is in the bylaws, but that has never been addressed by NaCCRA. And so that, again, there's a fuzzy thing there. And the question is, how can we regain the credibility of our membership and be in conformity with the bylaws and have a viable board, given that the number of resignations from the board has been such to diminish the board below a working level? I don't know. Do you have thoughts on that, Jim? Jim McLean?
Yeah, Jack. I mean, I haven't thought this all the way through, but I think the board needs to clearly understand where the board members are in regard to the bylaws and previous documented board minutes or member meetings. And that's what I try to do, is go back and look at the history. And unfortunately, the history is very bleak. I think the only viable solution to get member buy-in to the validity of the board is at the next member meeting in March, that the entire board stand for election by the membership, and that we comply with the thing that you put out, Jack, on the requirement for terms that some board members are on for 1 year, some are on 2, some for 3, so you get the rotation back. I mean, this is a member organization, in my opinion, and we need to get the buy-in. And the only way to do that is to get the board elected by the members, because there's so much ambiguity in the documentation. So I don't know what you do between now and then, but I think at that meeting, Jack, we need to take some action that puts validity on all the board members that are.
Jim, thank you very much. Can you hear me, Jim?
Yes, sir, I can.
Thank you very much for your research, and you have put your finger exactly on the problem. And I totally agree that we need to have the widest possible understanding of who the nominees are, what the terms are, and who the people are. And I must tell you that in my 6 years, this year, although we are in a dark valley that I hope will lead to a lighted end, this is the first year in my experience that we have had such an exceptionally gifted slate of new board members whose backgrounds have been so widely circulated that we are in a position at that March annual meeting that the bylaws call for to re-elect the whole board and break them into terms as you've suggested. So I thank you for moving this discussion forward.
How do we proceed between now and March?
I think the floor is open. My one suggestion is that we have an informal caretaker, whatever the designation would be, of the persons who are nominated, and have nominees or names in nomination with the existing board become a working committee that would begin to lay the foundations so that when the board is elected on March 18 and meets for the first time on March 19, there would be in place plans for addressing the financial issues that are in this agenda, addressing the advocacy issues, addressing the relationship with leading age. That would be that is, we don't stop working, we keep working, but it's in an informal, like a working group in any organization. It doesn't have authority, but it develops plans that are presented to the authority.
So in essence, it would be an ad hoc group?
Yeah.
Yep. For the
Okay.
purpose of.
And would that group be self-nominated?
Well, no, it would be the existing board and those who have been appointed by the president to be on the board, but who can't be confirmed because we can't get a quorum. It would be a very designated group of people.
Should the state presidents also have an?
Oh, I think they would be welcome. In fact, the meeting in Walt Boyer and Joan Lewis have done yeoman's service in preparing for the annual meeting, in which they already have up to 6 states are going to be there presenting their advocacy efforts and voicing to NaCCRA their hopes for NaCCRA's advocacy efforts, and at the same time have, I'm trying to think, well, have a presentation on the Vice President of Leading Age their advocacy agenda and to try to find out what they're up to see if there's some things that we can do together. So there is they've done a lot of work to put that together. So that would.
I have a question. What states? You said there were 6 states. Could you designate who they are?
Walt, I'll have to ask you.
Yeah, let's see if I can remember. I don't have the sheet in front of me, but it will be Virginia, North Carolina. I'm trying to think who else.
Connecticut?
Connecticut, I believe, is coming. Washington is coming. Pennsylvania, not Pennsylvania.
I thought you just said
Florida is still a little bit on the edge. They said they were going to try to get somebody, but they hadn't found the person to come yet. So that was 5, and I have 5 so far that are.
Virginia, North Carolina, Connecticut, Washington, and who?
Pennsylvania, was it?
Virginia,
No, I can't remember the other one. I'd have to look it up.
Virginia,
Yeah, I got that.
North Carolina, Connecticut, Washington, and maybe Florida. That's 5.
Yeah.
Florida.
Somebody mentioned Pennsylvania earlier.
Didn't get an answer from Pennsylvania.
I thought we had the other ones. I thought was Maryland.
Maryland has not
But
answered.
hope it was Arizona. I would hope it's Arizona. This is Bob Levine.
Yeah.
Well, Bob,
that-
turn your picture back on. You turned your picture. There you go. You can talk about it.
Oh, can I talk at the same time?
Yeah,
Yeah, you can.
just talk.
Okay. Yeah, I would hope Arizona would be there too.
Do you have somebody that could make a presentation?
Yeah, I
He
think
can
there's
make
some
Bob can make it.
what Walt is talking about, and I don't know how he's been in touch with these people, is those states which have an existing formal organization
The ones
but
that
have a spokesperson there to give reports on what they're doing in their state. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. And
So Arizona doesn't now have a formal state organization. Yes.
Well, even if states that are members can't be there, they can submit a report of what's going on, and somebody else can, or it can be included in the minutes or whatever record we have of the meeting.
Yeah. Now, what will we do with those reports?
Well, it's not just a report. It's asking them to ask their constituents what NaCCRA can do for them and with them in the NaCCRA advocacy arena. So we're listening to the members on what they would expect and hope. So it's a two-way communication.
right, there are 2 questions that I'm posing for them to speak to. The first is, what have you been doing? And we use that as ideas which the states can share among themselves. The second one is, what can NaCCRA do for you? And from that one, we hope to get some ideas about what we can do and what our priorities should be.
Okay. Now, in Indianapolis, we had those same questions. And
Yep.
there were people there from the states. What are the action conclusions that resulted from that discussion in Indianapolis?
You're asking me to go back and look at my notes again, and I don't have them in front of me.
Well, I mean, if we're acting, what are we doing? Do we know what we're doing as a result of Indianapolis?
The primary emphasis was on finance, that is, protection of our finances, and
Okay.
the other one was on the health issues.
Yeah. Okay.
Those were the 2 principal areas of it.
The other aspect of the annual meeting at Goodwin House is not only hearing from the states, but the states hearing from Leading Age and hearing from each other. And is there a way together we can join in some joint efforts on some particular issues. So it would have the geographical proximity of states with leading age with NaCCRA talking about advocacy. So that would be a first time that we'd have all three parties together, NaCCRA, 6 or 7 of the states, and a leading age person or two.
Should we have the for-profits there as well?
Well, if we can get them, I think we should. We are there. They are there in the fact that the 3 of us on the board are far from profits.
Well, yeah, but they're not. They're not. If leading age, I'm just trying to see what our relationship is here with leading age, because let's say leading age wants to advocate that we support a campaign against ageism.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
That, I mean,
yeah.
To be honest, that would leave me
cold.
Yeah.
Ageism, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think if we could find a way to do that, for example, if we could get somebody from Brookdale to come and be on the panel, if there's somebody in that Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area that could at least start in these conversations to have the for-profits present, that would be a breakthrough.
Okay, now I might be able to arrange.
Can I just interrupt for a second, if I may? I think the question really is what resources, I'm only talking from the Arizona point of view, what resources does NaCCRA offer that we could take advantage of? I think that's, in other words, I would hope it could be more proactive rather than reactive it's what do we want to do that can help the local chapters get their mission accomplished.
One thing, Bob.
One of the resources, Gene Hurley here, one of the resources, of course, is Lifeline, the publication, where they can exchange ideas and share share whatever's going on in their organization. And also the website is something that NaCCRA offers to members.
I think Bob Nicholson here. One thing that did emerge a year ago in Washington, D.C., and our former secretary, whom we deeply miss, was going to convene a group of Virginia, Washington, D.C., and Maryland resident leaders to be a core group that would be kind of the advocacy beachhead in the nation's capital for NaCCRA, and to keep us, in other words, they would be more daily in touch with what's going on and could keep us informed of where we would needed to be mobilized resources or campaigns or letter writing. That's one hope that might come out of the Maryland or the Goodwin House meeting, is that we might be able to create such a beachhead among those NaCCRA groups that are around the Washington area to begin to do what Bob Levine is asking for to help us all.
Okay, nothing came of that because I think nobody picked up the ball. We need somebody to pick up the ball, and that fell by the wayside. I'm beginning to be a little, we've got an awful lot on the plate here for Goodwin House. You were saying that the board would be elected on March 18th and not meet till the next day. And then the next day, we're going to have this discussion with a panel with
No, all the program is on Saturday. The Sunday is devoted entirely to the board.
Oh, okay.
The board elects its officers and gets its work plan together and gets acquainted with each other and the idiosyncrasies of each other.
Okay, I'll try to get somebody from Brookdale, and I'll let them be the conduit to see if Argentum or the American Senior Housing Association wants to be represented. The Argentum, which used to be the Assisted Living Federation of America, and the American Senior Housing Association are the two representatives of the for-profit or operation. They used to be part of what's Leading Age, but they were expelled from Leading Age because they were profit mongers.
Yes.
So if we can bring them back in, now that may cause Leading Age to refuse to cooperate, because when we met in Nashville and we invited a Brookdale person, Leading Age would not countenance that, and we were meeting on their turf, so they forced us to back off on that. But I think if we can get something like that going, and so that would be for Saturday, so that I talked to Brookdale correctly.
That's right. And Ruth, Jack Cummings, Walt Boyer, and Joan Lewis are putting that together, so relate to them.
Walt Boyer and Joan Lewis are putting it together?
Yes.
Can I just interject as a former Leading Age staff member? I wouldn't have the competition in the same room together. Leading Age won't come.
That's what I'm afraid of. They're very thin-skinned about this profit thing. They just think profit people are evil. So that becomes something that may affect how closely we want to bond with Leading Age.
Do we have any CCRCs that are members of NaCCRA now that are profit?
Yes. Stone Ridge for one.
Stone Ridge?
Yes.
Joya, we got lots of them.
Yeah,
and they've
roughly half our
yeah, they've been a member for how long?
From the beginning of, Stone Ridge from the beginning of time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, and it's never been a problem before.
Never.
It's not really a problem. It's something that Leading Age has in its mindset. It's not a real world problem. You know, there are good people.
It's for but it's for their organization. They're not concerned about our organization.
Yeah.
But you know, we're all CCRCs, regardless of profit or for profit or not for profit.
Leading Age is made up of nonprofit.
I understand, but they also they all like Leading Age for the exposition. They, rather regardless of whether you're profit or for not for profit, you're there.
I know, like I say, I don't think it bothers them in the least if NaCCRA has profit and nonprofit members.
I hope not.
Why should it bother them? Let's not make an issue of it. If it's not an issue, let's not make an issue of it.
I'm for that.
If it hasn't been an issue in the past, why bring it up?
All right, I'd like to move off of this and ask Walt and with Joan to talk to each other and maybe talk to Ann McKay and see what we might do to move forward in this area. I don't think we can solve it today.
Yeah, we can do that. I need to correct one thing with the states. Connecticut actually turned me down. The states that are currently here to be present are North Carolina, New Jersey, Virginia, and Washington, and Florida, if they can find somebody to be there. So
I will be attending on behalf of Alma Smith from the Maryland chapter.
Can you have somebody present?
I will be attending. Ann McKay will be attending.
And you can speak to
I will be there representing Alma Smith. She's coming off knee surgery.
Okay.
Well, and Ann, may I just say, besides being an Apple guru that saved my butt, has a background in Maryland where the majority of Maryland's NaCCRA dues or Maryland MACRA dues goes to funding a lobbyist and a website. They are probably the strongest, along with Washington State and Florida, of our states. So I think we need Maryland there, and I'm glad that Ann stepped forward.
Okay,
well, Ann's also very valuable in helping us to understand the Leading Age.
That's right. Yeah. We need a Leading Age psychiatrist.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right.
If Florida comes through, that will make our 6.
All right.
I'd like to say a couple of words about what I suggest that we think about in terms of what NaCCRA is doing or should be doing. First of all, we do have some efforts going on that are long-term in that they aren't going to happen overnight, and we need to keep pressure on. Jack Cumming has been working very hard with the financial people, including the accounting board and others, to try to get some accounting rules changed in our favor. We know that the National Association of Insurance Commissioners has finally decided to take a look at our model laws. We don't know exactly what they are deciding yet, but we know that there's something going on there. And this next year is going to be a year chock full of changes in the national legislature. We could certainly take on the job of monitoring I'm sorry, not the state, the national legislature. We could take on the job of monitoring the national legislature and making recommendations to the states to take action with their representatives and senators to pass laws that we think might be more favorable for us and for our people. Those are three things right now that two that we're doing, and one more that we can do that would be looked on, I think, favorably by our membership.
So, Walt, if you decide to drop the president-elect, would you be able to be the legislative monitor person?
I think I could certainly start doing that. Yes, I might want more people to help with that, but yeah, I could do that. I could start that. We probably need a team of about 3 people.
So you could be like the legislative vice president.
Yeah.
Which we have now.
That makes a lot of sense. And Walt would have with him at Goodwin House, Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. people that there were 2 or 3 people that said they would help in that meeting a year ago. So that there are some people out there. It's just that our friend Bill, who was our secretary, was going to convene them, and it didn't happen.
Well, Walt also has family in the D.C. area, so
right.
he welcomes excuses to go up there.
There you go. Okay, are we ready to move to the next item on the agenda?
Bob?
Yes?
This is Jim McLean. Can I have an input?
Sure, input away.
Bob, before we leave the meeting in March, I think one of the things that we ought to do is be sure that we're following our current governance documents in regard to reaching the point of election. For example, some of these things are fairly bureaucratic, I would admit, but I think if we're going to end up the day with a legitimate board, we need to do some of those things. My example would be nominating. There's a very clear process for nominating board members. We're not exactly following it. I don't think it takes much effort or creates labor to follow those. My memory is, for example, that there's supposed to be a chair of the nominating committee. It's supposed to be a state president. It seems to me those kinds of details, once you read them and commit yourself to following the governance documents, they're really simple to implement, and they don't make us subject to member criticism at the end of the day. I think our goal should be to come out of March meeting with a member-elected board following the process dictated by the governance documents.
I think we all agree with that. Walt Boyer is a state president, and he has headed the nominating committee, and he has met with the state presidents, and he has presented the slate of directors.
Well,
that's 100% in line with the bylaws. But I think you make a very legitimate point, Jim. We need a lawyer to be sure that these things are in compliance. And that's an area where you in Washington, with your large membership, may be able to be helpful in bringing forward a lawyer with sufficient background in association governments to really help us.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you, Jack. I just want to tell you.
Jean Hurley here. I'm looking at the bylaws, and it says no later than the first day of October, the president shall activate a nominating committee to be comprised of the presidents of the state association members. The president shall also appoint a chair for the nominating committee, who ordinarily shall also be the president of one of the member state associations. The nominating committee shall develop criteria for board service and shall then assemble a slate of board candidates from among those members deemed to be most qualified for such service. For the purpose of assisting the nominating committee in developing a slate of nominees, at least 90 days before the annual meeting, a call for suggested nominations will be sent to the membership. Such a call may be published in Lifeline, and such publication shall suffice. We did have a little notice in Lifeline saying that we're putting together a board of directors, and that if anybody has any suggestions to contact, I don't know who can't remember who they were supposed to contact.
Walt Boyer.
Walt Boyer. So we're in full compliance.
We're in full compliance. Thank you, Gene. But I want to address Jim McLean and just say that I have not been a legal eagle on the bylaws, but with this director thing, I have gone over the bylaws, and Jim, I'm going to quote to you just to let you know that I'm paying attention. Article 9, Section 3, there shall be an annual general meeting near our airline hub in the spring. Article 5, Section 3, directors shall be at the annual meeting elected there. Individuals may vote by proxy or electronic means. Article 6, Section 1, the board of directors shall be composed of between 9 and 11. And Article 7, Section 1, the president shall, with a majority approval from the board, appoint individual members to fill unexpired terms. And that's where we are now, but we haven't had a quorum to approve the president's naming. So that's what leads us to the ad hoc group of board members and those appointed but not yet approved to be an informal group that will work between now and March to get the work moving forward, and then have it ratified at the annual spring meeting. And the new board on March 19 will have a day together to organize itself, elect its officers, and start on the new year totally compliant to the bylaws. And Jim, I again appreciate your thoughtfulness in bringing these things up, and hope you will continue, if you see gaps, to bring them up. So let's move on to the next subject, which is the finances. We are not in a position today to deal with the report of the treasurer, because the treasurer has said he's going to conclude his service, and he's not. Has Rod Letchworth joined the conversation yet?
No.
All right.
No.
We have the critical issue of the burn rate. We have two budgets proposed by Bennett Napier, one without any contribution from Washington State, one with contribution, and some questions about the cost of broadcast email, etc. I think that has got to be referred to this working group of officers. After today's conversation, I'm going to call 2 or 3 of you to ask if you would be a work group to do an analysis of where we are and where we need to go, because I don't think we can deal with that today.
So we do have one pertinent bit of additional information which came in this morning. Bennett Napier,
yes,
that his fixed costs are such that he cannot reduce his fee below what it has been, regardless of whether Washington State decides to handle collection on its own or not. The fee will still be the same, whether Bennett does the collection for Washington State or Washington State does it themselves. That was new information this morning, I believe. And I don't know who that email went to. Did you get a copy of that?
Yes, I got a copy of that.
Yeah, I'm asking, did Jim get a copy? Because he's in Washington. Did you get a copy?
Jack, I don't think I have that, but I'm not sure it's appropriate that I do so. I got a little bit of a conflict of interest here.
Yeah. Well, I think the matter of the request from Washington State has got to go to this small committee that analyzes our NaCCRA finances, because we can't, I have no authority to negotiate with Washington State without a background of some of our more financially gifted board members looking at an analysis of what is possible and what is not. So those are going to be referred to this group of 2 or 3. Walt's worked on this. Jack's worked on it. Bob Levine has an expertise in the world of finance, and I'll be in touch with you after this meeting. Okay. And now we have a supplemental agenda. And that we didn't deal with the joint task force with leading aid. That's you, Jack.
Yes. Well, we, as Walt Boyer already alluded to, we focused on this matter of protecting residents' entry fee investments. They've not been protected in general, with some exceptions in the for-profit world, but universally in the nonprofit world, the resident entry fees are at-risk money, and the residents are merely general creditors. And so we've gotten some pushback from the providers on that matter, and we thought that perhaps hosting an educational session for them to let them see how that has worked for other industries might open them to it. I think they just have a visceral reaction that breakthrough ideas don't come from residents. So
Yeah, right.
I think we can get past that, and so we wrote and suggested, let's just as a first step. They wanted to have just another get acquainted meeting, which we had a year ago. We haven't had any meetings since then, and whether there's good faith or not, that's another question. But we thought, let's have a fresh start. Let's have a fresh start. And so, and instead of just wasting our time, we'll do this educational session. We'll get some experts in to explain how this works and how it's worked in other industries, and help the providers see what their best interest is. And we're waiting to hear from them. Now, my understanding is that Katie Smith, this is from the grapevine now, but it's a pretty good grapevine. Katie has, again, assigned this back to Steve Mogg. She was trying to move it along herself. And Steve Mogg is not one who plans much ahead. So he sought to schedule a meeting for 2 p.m. East West Coast time on Monday with his group, but he only did it at the last minute, and they weren't able to meet because they're busy people tied up to discuss it. So he feels that although it's called a joint task force, we can't discuss these things jointly. They have to have a position. We have a position. He comes from a legal background. He sees this as sides that are in conflict with each other. And that is a factor which is affecting the joint task force. If that continues, then we have to cope with it and try to embrace the provider members and try to reach out and help them to get their heads around what it is that the residents want and need, and what will improve their marketing for the future. So it's in their interest to have it. But whether that will take place or not is still uncertain. And I understand that Steve's a lawyer. He believes in that the residents are plaintiffs and the providers are defense people, and that's his background. So we have to cope with it. We're doing the best we can. but I don't know that the future is going to be led by leading age. It may come more from these for-profit outfits like Argentum and the American Senior Housing Association. I do know that Brookdale is very interested in working with us and with residents, and Brookdale is the 500-pound gorilla in the room. So we'll see where it goes. Right now, the jury's still out, as it has been for the last year.
Jack, let me ask.
Jack,
hold
Jean
on.
Hurley here.
Okay.
Has Brad Reading addressed the things you were talking about in his material?
Brad is yes, he does raise some of those concerns, but Brad also has an industry clientele, so he's but there is movement going in that direction on some financial things. The specific matter that we raised, the question of an entry fee guarantee comparable to what you have for a bank deposit, for a pension plan, or for an insurance policy, is not something that would fall within the realm of the advisory service that Brad Breeding operates.
Jack, let me ask you this about Brookdale. Ann McKay has pointed out that if we had Brookdale in a panel on Saturday, leading age wouldn't come. But this meeting is on our turf in a community. We're in charge of the program. What would it be like if we amended the Sunday schedule, which is devoted to the board, expanded it by an hour, and had Brookdale come and talk with our board?
I don't think we want to treat Brookdale like petitioners. I think what we're seeing now is the Achilles heel of leading age.
Okay.
Leading age has some problems, and they've got to address their problems. Their problems began when they supported the Class Act and didn't make sure that it was a workable plan. So their reputation in Washington, D.C. now is diminished because of what they did with the Class Act. And this commitment to nonprofits as the be-all and the end-all is another weak point that they have. So we can help them to sort of suggest things to them, but it's up to them to act as they act, and they can act any way they want. So if we're going to address these questions, I don't think we want to resolve that today. Whether
okay, all right. Well, I just had the brainstorm.
But I think Ann is right that that if you bring other players into the game, leading age takes a position. We will not play in that sandbox because we're the elite.
Yeah.
Okay.
That elitist view is their weakness.
Okay, thank you very much. The final thing is exposure for member and board review of a draft standing rule. That's also you, Jack, and that's...
Yeah, why don't we defer that? I'll wait till the phone, somebody's phone's ringing, so we'll wait till...
Yeah.
It'll go away. It'll go away.
Well,
Basil, it's okay. It'll go away.
It's
I think it was Basil's phone.
it went.
That was mine. I got it.
Yeah, no, well, that's okay. We could have waited it out. But anyway, this has to do, what happens is leading age selects who they phone. So they phone the person who they think will agree and support their view, which is part of their view of viewing it as adversarial side. So when you're in an adversarial relationship, you try to go toward the other side is weak. So they, out of the blue, without any advance notice, they called Walt Boyer and put him on the spot. And then they cited that conversation as supporting a leading age agenda moving forward, which is one that we might adopt with full information among the group. But we wanted to make sure that we had a policy so that when somebody gets that kind of a phone call, they make it clear that they don't have authority to speak for NaCCRA,
Right.
so that they can't be misrepresented as having committed NaCCRA to something that we might be uncomfortable with. And in this particular case, Leading Age is seeking to begin an organization called the Senior Action Network to compete with NaCCRA. And they wanted us to concur with them in doing that. Well, we're willing to talk with them.
Yeah.
If they're willing to invest money in resident advocacy, then let's talk. But don't think you're going to just subsume us and treat us like children. We're not children. We're adult, and we're intelligent, and we're still functioning, and we haven't left the planet yet.
That's right.
Amen.
Amen. All right.
Well, can I just ask a question? Who do we represent?
We represent the CCRC residents, and beyond that, all prospective residents, which means that we're in a position to advocate for all people who are facing the challenges of aging, and we want to help ameliorate those challenges.
So we want to get our residents at this meeting.
Yes.
I think, isn't that a primary focus?
Yes, that's our primary focus.
So we want to get as many states and representatives as possible to that meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
If possible. Yep.
And
All right.
so we want to have the agenda of that meeting, give them a reason to come.
That's right. And that's what Walt and Joan have been working on last year. So it will be out in the January 1 Lifeline to be out 3 months and 14, or not, well, 3 months before the meeting. And I've highlighted it also in the president's column. Anyway, go ahead, Bob. Excuse me.
No, I understand that. That's fine. I just wanted to be sure that we stayed with our mission, which is to focus on the residents' needs.
Yes.
Exactly.
Good. Okay.
Kim Barley just arrived. Hello, Kim. If you click on your speakers, we'll hear you. I think he's feeling his way. I don't have a phone number for him.
But I do. I can give him a call.
I'll wave to him. Can you hear us? No, I guess he can't. Well, okay. I think we're just about finished, though. Anyway.
No, we are. And what I want to suggest is that 2 or 3 have spoken to me that in the next 30 days, we're going to have Christmas travels, Christmas celebrations, families come together. And would it be wiser to have our informal ad hoc group meet February 1st rather than January 3rd or something?
I think we ought to meet in January, but if you feel like postponing it a week, that may be all right.
Well, there's no reason why people can't be talking among themselves.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So I think there'll be plenty of conversations going on. I don't know what kind of a meeting you're thinking of convening. But
right. Yep. Now, one more thing before we finally depart. If we, Joan and I very deliberately held the general meeting on Saturday and the board meeting on Sunday. In the past, that has been reversed. The board meeting was usually held first. And we did that because of the way the bylaws read, that the election of the board comes during the general meeting, and following that, the new board meets to elect the officers of the executive committee. I would like, I've sent you today, again, a set of very abbreviated bios for the new candidate. If we have an election in March, I will need similar, very abbreviated bios to go for everybody that is going forward on the list for election.
How abbreviated?
Well, you should have received an email from me this morning with with those
Okay.
bios, and that they provide a good example of what I'm looking
But
for.
yeah, some are very long, some are very short. I could do one in the middle.
Yeah, you could do one in the middle. The ones for Jack Matheson and you are
Yeah,
particularly.
I know you did that, and I thank you for that.
I didn't have that kind of information on you.
Yeah.
I don't have information on the rest of the people that are going to be on the election in March, and I'm going to need it.
Okay. And what do you have a deadline for that?
I would say the 1st of February.
All right.
Off the top of my head. That's just off the
Okay.
top of my head. I will be meeting with the state presidents. I intend to submit to them all the names of the current board and the all the candidates, and then ask them to make recommendations for additional people, and we'll come up with.
Okay.
I would just add, Jean Hurley asked that she'd like to include this in the next Lifeline. I think the deadline for that is already passing, but and we've got the members voting.
I have no objection.
Right. Let me just finish. So if Ruth, if you can get that to me immediately, I can weave it into an article, long or short. I can make an article out of it if I have a background, and I can.
I sent it to you this morning, so you can use it.
Yeah, no, I have that, and I was just gonna, for those people I didn't have something, I was gonna make it up from what I know about them. I know something about Matheson. We're also gonna need rules about attendance that, if you have to give the board service a priority, or,
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need that.
I'll do that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
Okay,
mean to interrupt.
thank you, Ruth.
And one other thing I would like to make. We have decided to sort of ad hoc group, planning group, so to speak, and we really should be preparing perhaps a plan for 2017 to present at the March meeting. So I'm speaking to all of our attendees right now. That is one of the tasks we should be working on in the next 3 months.
I think people are working on that.
Yeah. And that's where I will name 2 or 3 people that I mentioned earlier that have some financial expertise to look at the current budget, the current income, and the projection, and bring something to the annual meeting that will help us as we go forward.
This is Basil. Can I insert something here?
Sure.
I've been pretty quiet because what I've really been trying to focus on is when we come to the March meeting, what are our primary objectives? What do we hope to accomplish? Just in bullet form. And I wonder if we might summarize this call in kind of formulating those objectives. I like the thing that we talked about, or that we talked about initiatives. What is NaCCRA doing? And we talked about a few things Jack's doing with the accounting rules and model laws and legislation. Is one of our objectives to get a focused understanding of current NaCCRA initiatives? That's a question for everybody. The next thing that I think really is very foggy in my mind, what's our objectives with regard to the current financial status and the financial operations for the year 2017? I think that's a good reason to be coming to Goodwin House in March, but I would think it would help if we could define 3, 4, 5 objectives that this meeting is going to deal with. I'd also like the compliance with rules that was somewhat answered by this phone call, but for new board members, understanding the history of bylaws is a bit daunting, especially when you couple it with some history. One thing we did not bring up, which I would really like to achieve when we come there in March, is to understand the membership of NaCCRA, the numbers we have, and if there's any targeted growth in those. So what are our initiatives for growing members? Part of what we're able to do or not do depends on the number of voters and constituents we have. So could membership definition and plans be part of that upcoming meeting? Those were just the items that I was trying to flag as I listened through this meeting. But I think it might help if in the announcement or in the focus statement for that meeting, we could just identify these 4 or 5 key things that we hope to accomplish when we come together in March. I don't know if that makes any sense, but for me, it really helps.
It makes a lot of sense, and we appreciate your bringing them up. I would like to highlight also that the March meeting will bring together these 6 or 7 state groups. That what are they doing in advocacy, and what do they expect us to do? That is listening to our state constituents. That's one way you grow membership, is are you listening and are you building effective partnerships? The second thing is, it will be a time, an objective would be, we have never had a person from Leading Age come to NaCCRA and face us and say what are their advocacy issues and where do we see common ground. And the third is an opportunity for the board to be in a meeting face-to-face for multiple hours to elect officers and to lay out a work plan, because without that, my being here today is a result of going to a spring meeting and a Leading Age NaCCRA meeting and meeting the people and how to work with them. And when you build relationships, then when you have these conference calls like this, the fact that, you know, we've been together and face-to-face is another benefit.
Well, I would, on your first one, you know, the state groups, what they are doing, what they do for NaCCRA, I would add what Bob Levine suggested. What is NaCCRA doing for the states?
That's in Walt's report. Asking them.
And, having a Leading Age visit, we've had Steve Mogg come every year and tell us what they're doing and that they want us to support it. So
we're not inviting Steve Mogg.
So you're saying it's, well, yeah, but Steve Mogg, you said nobody has ever come from Leading Age. We've always been open to Leading Age.
But I guess I said no one because we never learned anything. Excuse me. I apologize for that. That was tacky.
Yeah,
well, we'll see if
but you think it's the truth.
May I stick my nose in now because I'm late getting here? And I've been giving some thought to this thing of membership, and without a concrete plan that's proven, and I even suggest that we go outside to a professional in some city, Washington's not bad, to get us some concrete plans for us to move ahead with state and, you know, the chapters in here. I don't think we know how to do that. And I say that because of how many members we have. It's a beginning, but I think we need to be really professional. And I go the route of hiring a professional when you know the cost of teaching us how to simplistically work on getting members from the FLICRA group. I'm through.
And
I think that's why we hired Bennett's firm. I think that was his job. It was because he was so successful in Florida in getting members for FLICRA.
That was exactly why
we figured.
That was exactly. We met in Charlie Polk's office in apartment, January 2011. Ruth was there, and that was exactly why we.
Exactly.
Well, I think that Kim Barley has made a very good point that we need another avenue of approach that, as she says, is simple and proven, even if we have to pay for it and raise the money to do it. because I've worked on this membership for 6 years, visiting communities, recruiting people, and it is a very painstaking, energy draining, and the results have been, we've kept our head above 2,000, but we need to be at 40,000, and relying just on officers like me is not going to get us there.
I agree with you, and it's not a down thing for me to say, but it's obvious to me that unless you go outside and look at what the cost and the advantage and the results we might expect to do that. And until we do that, I don't know that we're going to be very successful in increasing the membership.
Yep, I think you're right, Kim. Thank you. Is there any other?
We need to rely not only on officers and directors, but also on state presidents and the people. We have communities that have joined NaCCRA, and so there's one person who's a contact for that entire community, and they should be selling NaCCRA in their own community.
I think Kim Barley's point is we need a professional way to do that job.
Absolutely.
Well, as I said, this is Bennett's. That's why we hired Bennett.
All right. Other business. I think we've come to the conclusion of our meeting. The proposal was that we, as a total group, meet on the first Wednesday of February, but that we have continued conversations on membership and finance and looking at the budget with 2 or 3 people during the month of January after the Christmas holidays.
Okay.
Right.
Then, see, I would ask for a motion to adjourn, but we're not constituted.
Yes.
So motions are inappropriate. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a wonderful holiday.
Thank you.
Merry
Thank
Christmas.
you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yes.